What if I told you that the One Piece series we love and know so well is not really the first adaptation of this story? There was another One Piece before it, with a different art style and new plot, and maybe Oda was even inspired by that anime. For some reason nobody knows about it, but I managed to find some information about this cool story. In 1998, Shonen Jump celebrated anniversary and they decided to release two plot issues with very cool stories. The first one was Hunter x Hunter and the second one was of course our favorite One Piece. Defeat the Pirate Ganzak is the 30 minutes movie released by Production IG. The story behind titles like Ghost in the Shell, Haiku, Attack on Titans. The TV series we know started only 1 year after this movie was released. The story tells how Luffy and his crew are on the way to Grand Line in their little boat and they run out of food. Let's not point fingers as to who did it. And the first thing you might be confused about after watching an anime series is where's Usopp? The thing is, when this anime came out, the manga had just gotten to the Usopp arc, so when the studio made this movie, Usopp simply didn't exist. Imagine the look on their faces when they released the anime, and at that moment Oda brings in a new key character. Anyway, while they are floating in the sea, their ship is torn apart by a shell, and right after that a huge sea monster appears. They don't have a real fight on the water, and finally Nami gets grabbed by the monster and Luffy grabs Zoro and they go to the bottom of the sea together. Quite a lovely start, but still in the vein of classic One Piece. The first thing that catches your eyes in a very cool and especially for an One Piece unusual art style. The design of this anime went in a slightly different direction, towards realism. They have removed these large arms and legs, making the usual human proportions. All characters in general look a little different, and for example the same hair Zoro is no longer bright color and darker green. All in all, I will describe it as an older and brighter art style. They made such a warm yellow light in it that you might even think for a second that it's not an anime, but someone's childhood cartoon. After Luffy almost kills Zoro, he somehow managed to make it to the island alive. When he gets there, two pirates try to rob him, but a little girl who hates pirates comes to his rescue. Luffy ends up getting trampled like a carpet, which looks pretty funny. All this leads to the first ever animated Gomu Gomu no Punch, and it's really cool. There are cool details like the sand bouncing off his feet and the way his arm stretches out. And in anime they usually try to show it as fast as possible to convey that dynamic, but here they decide to focus on maximum detail, carefully working out each frames. In the One Piece series we first saw Gomu Gomu no Pistol in the battle against Alvida. It was also made as long as possible, as if they knew it would be legendary. But the animation is not as good compared to the movie. It will be cool if they made a series with such a cool animation and art style. But what if I told you that some of the artists who work on this anime will join to Toei Animation in the future and create the later One Piece series? They added more realism and seriousness to the series, making it probably the coolest animation in anime at the moment. The girl leads Luffy and a hastily found Zoro to a local village, where an elder named Skid treats them to their last meal. As Luffy and Zoro eat and ponder Nami's fate, Skid tells them of Ganzak, a vicious pirate whose crew has enslaved the entire island. While the women, children and elderly remained in the village as hostages, all able-bodied men, including the girl's father, were sent to work at Devil's Tower. Luffy decided to help girl save her father, but only after hearing about plenty of food. Anyway, beast. After infiltrating the tower, the trio discovers that it contains an arsenal and Ganzak's men are focusing the villagers to build guns and cannons. Ignoring the danger, girl runs to her father as soon as she finds him, alerting dozens of enemy pirates. Luffy and Zoro are ready to go fight with these pirates, until a masked figure suddenly attacks and kidnaps the girl. While Zoro holds Ganzak's men back, Luffy pursues the kidnapper from the tower, but it turns out to be Nami. I think, okay, this is her plan to get the girl to safety quietly. But at that moment Ganzak himself appears on a huge beast, and Nami turns out to have already unbounded her team and rushed to our enemy. I've seen this somewhere before, very reminiscent of the story of Nami stealing a ship and going to Arlong. And the coincidence says with arc that don't exist, yes, just keep growing. You can see this especially if you look closely at the main enemy. Ganzak is like putting Don Creek in a blender and adding a pinch of Buggy Clown and mixing it up. The buggy element comes into play when he wants to destroy the city with his ships, and he even has the ability to ruin straw hats. But most of all, he's like Don Krieg, not only in appearance but also in character. He thinks he is the best pirate because of his modern armor and his cool ship. He has no concept of honor, seeing it only as an obstacle to his dreams. He also has no sense of pity or respect for others, not even his own crew. The most interesting thing is that the anime came out before we saw Don Krieg for the first time. When the anime came out, the manga was in the Usopp arc, and the director came up with the story on his own. This raises the question of whether this niche OVA inspired One Piece and Oda in general. We know for a fact that Oda praised the workers on this adaptation and saying, "This anime brought tears to my eyes, and the passion of the staff ignited the flame of my writing soul." You could stop there and saying that's it. Our all-time favorite Oda to the first arcs was actually inspired by someone else's work, but I was not satisfied with such a superficial answer. The first thing I noticed was the girl who hates pirates. She was obviously inspired by us, but the full Nami and Arlong arc hadn't been published yet. In that arc, her village also taken over, and we also see her as a little girl. But let's keep in mind that Nami's hatred of pirates is seen at the very beginning of One Piece, in the Buggy Clown arc, so no doubt Oda was planning Nami's arc before this anime even came out. As for Ganzak, it turned out that while Oda didn't came up with the plot, he did provide sketches of some of the characters, including the main antagonist. And of course, like any artist and writer, he did not just hand over his manuscripts without words, but told how he saw him, what his character is, how he behaves, and already around the almost finished character, the scriptwriter invaded the story with the capture of the island. This is actually Oda provided all the tools and the world to create the story, and the director came up with the plot based on them. Luffy loses the battle when Ganzak's armor sprays a powerful foam and binds his entire body. At this point, Zoro is forced to surrender, as he is stranded to open fire on the slaves. As he is taken away, the girl's father encourages the others to start a riot with a dynamite. Soon Luffy, Zoro and Medaka find them slave chained to a wall and are forced to watch as Ganzak and Nami the pirates feast and celebrate. When Luffy continues to challenge him, an angry Ganzak says he will be the pirate king, then grabs Luffy's head and stomps on it. In a rage, Luffy yells that the head is the treasure Shanks and trusts it to him and proudly declares himself a pirate. And at this point I want to discuss with you how similar the characters turn out to be the original ones from the manga. In general, despite the fact that this was written by a different person, I think he did a good job, but I still have a few comments. For example, if someone said he was going to be a pirate king and then start stomping on Luffy's head, he'd probably worry about the head first, not the words of some clown. But then he'd say he wasn't just a pirate, but a future pirate king. Or Nami, for example, she's a girl with a temper, so to speak, but I think they went a bit overboard here and made her a real bitch. I have no problem with Zoro at all. Zoro as a pirate hunter does what is expected of him, slashes with sword. It is important to understand that according to the chronology of One Piece, it happens after 8 episodes, so the character for this time they have no made friends normally, and Oda himself at this time could not really reveal anyone, so it was a really difficult task for the author, and in general he coped with that. Moments later, an explosion shakes the tower and the girl's father leads the other villagers into open uprising. As Ganzak pirates run outside to surprise the villagers, Nami approaches the trio cheerfully, returns Luffy's hat and grabs the key to their shakeless. She was trying to trick Ganzak the whole time, but a little too much. The arrival of the team rehabilitated the villagers' attack, prompting Ganzak to reveal his main weapon, the Devil Towers itself, revealing there is actually the main cannon of a giant warship. A single shot from this cannon floods a large part of the island. Luffy and his crew jump into the ship and engaged in a spirited battle with Ganzak. However, Ganzak is eventually captured and tied up in chains. The enemy prepares to deliver his final blow, but the girl who sacrifices herself appears out of nowhere. Luffy, angry about the girl's death, breaking the bonds and destroy him with a mighty blow. Luckily, the girl had stuck her head deeper into her armor and wasn't hurt. At the end of the movie, we see the whole island is saying goodbye to its heroes. A little girl come running with a gift for Luffy, a life preserver. Nami and Zoro smile at the small inscription on the back of the preserver. Thank you. I actually like this special. For such short length of 30 minutes you cannot show a big story, so they rush it as much as they could. But it was really good. It was a really cool experience, a chance to see what it will be like if One Piece was made in a classic retro style and created by a different director. Well, now you can say that the One Piece series that we love and know so much is not really the first adaptation of the story, and everything started a bit earlier.